Harper was here, July 1997. The message carved into a ponderosa pine in the Montana wilderness ended there. Incomplete. When Montana State University student Emma Rodriguez discovered it in July 2018, she immediately recognized the significance. The carving had been there for 21 years, 8 miles from where a mother and daughter's abandoned RV had been found locked from the inside in 1997. Harper Lang, 16 years old at the time, had survived whatever happened at that campsite. She'd traveled 8 miles through brutal terrain. She'd carved a message for rescuers. Then she'd vanished without a trace. The incomplete sentence raised a question that investigators still can't answer. What was Harper trying to tell them about her mother? And what stopped her from finishing? This is the Montana vanishing case, still officially unsolved, still generating new theories, and still haunted by that 3-word fragment carved into a tree. On July 16, 1997, Flathead County Search and Rescue located a white Winnebago RV on an unmarked Forest Service road approximately 15 miles north of Glacier National Park. The vehicle belonged to Claire Watkins, age 42, and her daughter Harper Lang, age 16, both residents of Boulder, Colorado. They'd been reported missing 8 days earlier by Nathan Reed, Claire's husband and Harper's father. The RV was their last known location. What search teams found inside would establish this as one of Montana's most baffling disappearance cases. The vehicle's door was locked from the inside. Search coordinator Michael Torres stated in his official report that entry required breaking a rear window. Inside, the RV appeared to be in normal condition. 2 unmade beds, clothing in storage compartments, food in the refrigerator, including perishables that had begun to spoil. Harper Lang's disposable camera on the dining table, her journal beside it, open to an entry dated June 30th, 1997. Claire Watkins's purse was located under the front passenger seat, containing her wallet with credit cards, driver's license, and $47 in cash. Car keys were in the ignition. According to Torres's report, there were no signs of struggle inside the vehicle, no blood evidence, no indication of forced entry. The RV's mechanical condition was sound, with a quarter tank of fuel remaining. The location itself was unusual. The vehicle sat in a small clearing approximately 2 miles from the nearest marked road, accessible only via a poorly maintained forest track. Trees formed a dense canopy overhead, making the RV nearly invisible from aerial searches. Outside the vehicle, investigators documented several pieces of evidence. Approximately 20 feet from the RV, someone had carved a crude arrow into a tree, pointing north. The carving appeared fresh, made within days or possibly weeks of the discovery. Forensic analysis couldn't determine who had made it. Near the vehicle's door, investigators photographed marks in the dirt that could have been made by fingernails or by natural root patterns. Rain had come through the area, washing away details. The marks couldn't be definitively classified as evidence of struggle. Claire Watkins worked as an English teacher at Boulder High School in Colorado. According to statements from her husband Nathan Reed and school administrators, Claire was described as reliable, organized, and safety-conscious. Harper Lang was a junior at the same high school, described by teachers as intelligent and academically successful. According to Nathan Reed's initial statement to investigators, Claire had planned the Montana trip as a mother-daughter vacation. They'd left Boulder on June 18, 1997, in the rented RV. Their planned route included several stops at established campgrounds in Glacier National Park and surrounding areas. The last confirmed sighting of Claire and Harper occurred on July 1, 1997, at approximately 9:15 a.m., Glacier National Park Ranger Thomas Whitfield documented their departure from an official park campground in his daily log. Whitfield later stated that both Claire and Harper appeared to be in good spirits. Harper had leaned out the RV window to photograph the park entrance sign. Whitfield noted the Colorado license plate number, which matched the rental vehicle. This sighting was verified through campground registration records showing Claire and Harper had checked out that morning. Claire and Harper had reservations at another established campground for the nights of July 1st through July 3rd. They never checked in. On July 8th, when Claire failed to call Nathan as scheduled from a planned stop in Kalispell, Nathan contacted the Flathead County Sheriff's Office. The initial missing persons report was filed on July 9th, 1997. The investigation began with a review of Claire's planned route. She had left detailed notes with Nathan, including reservation confirmations and hand-drawn maps marking locations she wanted to visit. Investigators used this information to establish a search grid. The discovery of the RV on July 16th, in a location not on Claire's planned route, immediately raised questions about what had occurred between July 1st and whenever they'd arrived at that remote clearing. Harper's journal became a critical piece of evidence. Recovered from the RV, the journal contained daily entries documenting the trip from June 18th through June 30th. The entries described typical vacation activities, hiking, sightseeing, meals at roadside diners. Several entries mentioned an improving relationship between Harper and her mother. The entry from June 28th included the line, "Mom was actually real tonight. Not teacher mom or worried mom, just real. Told me it's okay to not know things." The final entry, dated June 30th, 1997, documented a day of hiking and a campfire dinner. The entry appeared normal until the last line, written separately from the rest of the text. "Mom wanted to tell me something, but stopped herself." Harper's handwriting in this final line showed slight shakiness compared to earlier entries. Forensic document analysts noted the spacing suggested Harper had written this line hours after the rest of the entry, possibly after thinking about something that concerned her. Lead investigator Detective Sarah Mitchell stated in a 1997 interview with KPX Montana News that the journal entry raised questions about Claire's state of mind on June 30th. Mitchell said, "We don't know what Claire Watkins wanted to tell her daughter. We don't know if it's relevant to their disappearance, but it's a detail that bothers everyone who works this case." The initial search operation involved over 200 volunteers, multiple search dogs, and helicopter support. Teams covered a 10-mile radius from the RV location. The terrain was challenging, heavily forested with steep elevation changes. Weather during the search period was unseasonably cold, with nighttime temperatures in the low 40s in periods of rain. According to wilderness survival experts consulted during the investigation, these conditions pose serious risk to anyone without proper equipment. Search dogs tracked scents from the RV approximately 50 yards into the forest before losing the trail. K9 handler Robert Morrison stated that the scent loss could indicate several scenarios. The subjects entered water, weather conditions degraded the scent trail, or the subjects were transported by vehicle from that location. All three possibilities were investigated without conclusive results. During the initial search, investigators documented additional unusual findings at the RV site that would later prove significant. Inside one of the storage compartments, searchers found a first aid kit that had been opened and partially emptied. Missing items included bandages, antiseptic, and pain medication. This suggested someone had treated an injury, though no blood evidence was found inside the vehicle to indicate the severity. In the small bathroom area, investigators found a towel that appeared to have been used recently. Forensic analysis detected traces of soil and plant matter consistent with the local forest environment. The towel was damp when discovered, despite the RV having been abandoned for at least 2 weeks. Detective Mitchell noted in her report, "The damp towel suggests recent use, but given the timeline, this doesn't make sense unless someone returned to the RV after the initial abandonment." Under one of the beds, searchers discovered a hand-drawn map on a napkin. The map showed crude directional indicators and what appeared to be landmarks, including a distinctive rock formation and a stream. Claire's handwriting was confirmed through comparison with other documents. The map included a notation reading 15 miles north and an arrow pointing in a specific direction. This map would become crucial evidence in understanding Claire and Harper's intended route. Investigators also found Harper's backpack, partially packed with supplies. Inside were energy bars, a water bottle, a flashlight with dead batteries, and interestingly, a small notebook separate from her main journal. This notebook contained what appeared to be survival notes, including information about edible plants and water purification methods. The handwriting matched Harper's style. Detective Mitchell stated, "This suggests Harper was preparing for an extended trek through wilderness. She'd been researching survival techniques, possibly anticipating they might need to abandon the vehicle." The vehicle's fuel level raised additional questions. Despite having a quarter tank remaining, the RV showed no signs of mechanical problems that would have prevented further travel. Mechanics who examined the vehicle confirmed it was in working condition. This led investigators to conclude that Claire and Harper had chosen to stop at this remote location, whether by their own decision or under duress from someone else. On July 19, 1997, a potential witness came forward. Chloe Simmons, a freelance guide, reported seeing a white RV with Colorado plates on a remote Forest Service road on July 2nd. Simmons had been leading a hiking tour when she observed the vehicle. The location she described matched where the RV was eventually found. Simmons stated she'd noted the license plate because the RV seemed out of place on that particular road, which was barely maintained and more suitable for trucks. The plate number matched Claire's rental vehicle. Simmons provided additional details in subsequent interviews that weren't initially documented. She recalled seeing what appeared to be movement inside the RV when she passed by, though she couldn't confirm who was inside or what they were doing. More significantly, Simmons reported seeing fresh tire tracks on the forest road leading to the RV's location. She stated the tracks appeared to belong to two different vehicles, one matching the RV's tire pattern and another from a smaller vehicle, possibly a pickup truck. This detail about a second vehicle became a critical element of the investigation. If accurate, it suggested someone else had accessed that remote location around the same time as Claire and Harper. Investigators attempted to locate and photograph the tire tracks Simmons described, but by the time they reached the area, weather and subsequent vehicle traffic had obliterated any usable evidence. Simmons also mentioned something she initially considered insignificant, but later reported to investigators. She'd heard voices in the distance while passing the area. She couldn't determine the number of people speaking or what was being said, but she distinctly remembered hearing what sounded like a male voice. This was notable because Claire and Harper were both female. If Simmons's recollection was accurate, it provided potential evidence of a third party's presence at the scene. Another witness, a campground host named Gerald Matthews, who worked at one of the official Glacier National Park facilities, came forward 3 days into the investigation. Matthews reported that on June 30th, the evening before Claire and Harper's last confirmed sighting, a man had approached him asking about remote camping locations. Matthews described the man as white, 30s, with shoulder-length dark hair, and wearing a faded denim jacket. The man had been driving an older pickup truck that Matthews believed was dark blue or possibly black. Matthews stated that the man seemed particularly interested in locations that were off the beaten path and away from other campers. When Matthews suggested established campgrounds, the man became insistent about finding more isolated spots. Matthews, following park policy, declined to provide specific directions to unmarked areas, but did mention that there were Forest Service roads north of the park that some people used for dispersed camping. This conversation, Matthews realized in hindsight, had occurred the same evening Harper wrote in her journal about her mother wanting to tell her something. Matthews told investigators, "I didn't think much of it at the time. Lots of people want solitude in nature. But after hearing about the missing woman and girl, and especially after hearing the description of that drifter people keep mentioning, I wondered if it was the same person." Simmons's testimony established that the RV had been at that location since at least July 2nd, one day after Claire and Harper's last confirmed sighting. This meant they'd driven to that remote location, or someone had driven them there, within approximately 24 hours of leaving the park campground. Several local residents reported seeing a drifter in the area during summer 1997. Descriptions varied, but witnesses generally described a white male, approximately 30 to 40 years old, with long dark hair. He drove an older pickup truck, color reported as either green or dark blue. Multiple witnesses stated the man had approached tourists offering to guide them to remote camping locations. Gas station attendant Marcus Webb reported that a man matching this description had purchased supplies on July 2nd, appearing nervous and paying in cash. Webb's statement was documented, but the individual was never identified. The official search was suspended on August 7th, 1997, after 3 weeks of operations. Detective Mitchell stated at a press conference that the case remained active and investigators would follow any new leads. She appealed for anyone with information to contact the sheriff's office. The case went cold with no additional significant leads. Nathan Reed continued private search efforts for years following the official investigation's suspension. He hired 3 different private investigators between 1997 and 2005. He made annual trips to Montana, conducting his own searches of the area. In a 2010 interview with the Boulder Daily Camera, Nathan stated, "I'll never stop looking. Somewhere out there, Claire and Harper need to be found. They need to come home." For 21 years, the case remained unsolved. Then on July 14, 2018, Emma Rodriguez made a discovery that would reopen the entire investigation. Rodriguez, age 22, was conducting wildlife research for her Montana State University thesis. She was documenting grizzly bear habitats in remote wilderness, approximately 8 miles northwest of where Claire and Harper's RV had been found. While setting up camera equipment, Rodriguez noticed markings on a large ponderosa pine. Upon closer examination, she realized the markings were words carved into the bark. Harper was here. July 1997, Mom is... The message ended mid-word. Rodriguez photographed the carving and immediately contacted the Flathead County Sheriff's Office with GPS coordinates. She later stated in an interview, "I grew up in Montana. Everyone here knows about the mother and daughter who vanished in '97. When I saw that name and that date, I knew exactly what I was looking at." Current Flathead County Sheriff David Palmer dispatched a forensic team to the location on July 15, 2018. The team documented and analyzed the tree carving extensively. Forensic analysis confirmed the carving had been made approximately 21 years earlier, consistent with July 1997. The tool appeared to be a knife based on cut characteristics. The carving depth suggested significant force, indicating the person had time and determination to complete the message. Handwriting analysis presented challenges due to the nature of carved letters versus written text. However, forensic document examiner Patricia Ross compared the carved letters to samples from Harper Lang's journal. Ross stated in her report that while definitive identification was impossible, the letter formations showed consistencies with Harper's handwriting samples, particularly in the formation of the letter H and the word is. The location of the carving was significant. The tree stood 8 miles northwest of the RV site, in terrain with no marked trails. To reach this location from the RV, someone would need to travel through heavily forested wilderness with multiple natural obstacles, including steep ravines and dense undergrowth. Sheriff Palmer stated at a 2018 press conference, "This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about this case. Harper Lang survived whatever happened at that campsite. She traveled 8 miles through extremely difficult terrain. The question is, why was she moving in this direction, and what happened to her after she carved this message?" The incomplete nature of the message generated immediate speculation. Palmer stated, "We have Mom is," and then nothing. Was Harper interrupted while carving? Did she run out of time? Did something prevent her from finishing? These are questions we're actively investigating. The discovery generated national media attention. The hashtag Harper Lang trended on social media platforms. True crime forums and discussion boards developed numerous theories about what the incomplete message meant. Comments ranged from "Mom is hurt" to "Mom is hiding," "Mom is gone." None could be confirmed. The 2018 investigation brought resources unavailable in 1997. Sheriff Palmer authorized deployment of drone technology equipped with thermal imaging and high-resolution cameras. Ground-penetrating radar units were brought in to search for buried remains. Cadaver dogs, trained to detect human decomposition even after decades, were deployed across an 8-mile corridor between the RV site and the tree carving location. On July 18, 2018, search teams located a makeshift shelter approximately 4 miles from the RV site, roughly halfway to Harper's tree. The structure was constructed from branches and covered with pine boughs. Sheriff Palmer described it as crude but functional, indicating someone with limited wilderness experience attempting to create protection from elements. Inside the shelter, investigators recovered fabric fragments. Forensic analysis matched the fabric to clothing items Nathan Reed confirmed Harper had packed for the trip. The shelter also contained remnants of a small fire pit. Within the fire pit, investigators discovered partially burned paper fragments. Forensic document specialists at the Montana State Crime Lab worked for 3 weeks to recover any readable text from the burned fragments. Most material was too degraded for analysis. However, one fragment, approximately 3 inches by 2 inches, contained legible text. The handwriting matched Harper Lang's journal samples. The recovered text read, "Someone was at the RV last night. We heard them outside walking around trying the door. Mom wouldn't let me turn on the lights. We sat in the dark for hours, hardly breathing, listening to footsteps circling the RV. When morning came, the person was gone, but Mom was terrified." She said we have to leave, have to abandon the RV and walk north. She said there's a ranger station, maybe 15 miles. If we can just get there, we'll be safe. She's trying to act calm, but how scared she is. I'm scared too, but trying not to show it. We're packing what we can carry. Mom is... The text ended there. Sheriff Palmer stated at a press briefing, this journal fragment indicates Claire and Harper were hiding from someone. They felt threatened enough to abandon their vehicle and attempt to walk 15 miles through wilderness to reach help. This fundamentally changes our understanding of what happened. The journal fragment raised several questions. Who had been circling the RV on the night of July 1st or 2nd? Why had Claire believed walking through wilderness was safer than staying with the vehicle? What had stopped Harper from finishing the sentence, Mom is, both in this journal entry and later in the tree carving? Search teams intensified efforts along the theoretical route Claire and Harper would have taken walking north from the RV. Between July 20th and August 10th, 2018, investigators located additional evidence. A compass, later identified by Nathan Reed as belonging to Claire, found approximately 5.5 miles from the RV. The compass was broken, with the needle detached from its mounting. Wilderness survival expert James Anderson stated that navigating with a broken compass could easily result in people walking in circles, becoming disoriented. Multiple fabric scraps caught on branches at various points along the 8-mile corridor. Forensic analysis matched some to clothing items Harper had packed. The distribution pattern suggested movement through the forest, but the exact route couldn't be determined. Harper's disposable camera, discovered lodged between rocks near a small stream approximately 6 miles from the RV. The camera contained a partially used roll of film. However, after 21 years of exposure to elements, the film was completely degraded. No images could be recovered. The camera had 4 unexposed frames remaining on the roll. The location where the camera was found provided additional clues. The stream was approximately 8 feet wide at that point, with moderate current. On the opposite bank, investigators found what appeared to be a piece of fabric matching Harper's jacket, suggesting she had crossed the water. Wilderness survival expert Anderson noted that crossing streams can be dangerous, particularly for inexperienced hikers. If Harper crossed here, Anderson stated, she was taking a significant risk. The water would have been cold, the rocks slippery. This suggests either confidence in her abilities or desperation to keep moving in that direction. Near the camera's discovery site, search teams found something else that had gone unnoticed in 1997. Scratches on a large boulder near the stream. Upon closer examination with modern photographic enhancement technology, the scratches appeared to form crude letters, H+C. The marks were shallow and partially obscured by lichen growth, suggesting they'd been made years earlier. Forensic analysis couldn't definitively date the marks, but their location and the initials' correspondence to Harper and Claire made investigators consider this might be another message Harper had attempted to leave. Search teams also discovered a small clearing approximately some 7 miles from the RV, where ground disturbance suggested someone had rested for an extended period. Flattened vegetation in a pattern consistent with someone lying down was documented. Surrounding this area, investigators found several items: a granola bar wrapper matching the brand Claire had packed, a broken shoelace, and most significantly, strands of long brown hair caught on low branches. DNA analysis of the hair samples confirmed they belonged to Harper Lang. The hair showed signs of weathering and environmental exposure, but the quantity found in one location suggested Harper had spent considerable time in that clearing, possibly resting or sleeping. Forensic analysis of the surrounding soil revealed no evidence of a fire or shelter construction in this specific location, leading investigators to theorize this might have been an emergency rest stop rather than an intentional campsite. Approximately 50 yards from this clearing, search teams using ground-penetrating radar detected an anomaly that initially generated significant interest. The radar showed what appeared to be a disturbed area of soil, approximately 6 feet long and 2 feet wide, at a depth of roughly 3 feet. Investigators carefully excavated the site, documenting every layer. What they found was disappointing from an evidence standpoint, but revealing nonetheless: a cache of stones that appeared to have been deliberately buried. The stones were arranged in a specific pattern, with larger rocks around the perimeter and smaller stones filling the center. Some stones showed scratch marks that could have been made by a knife or similar tool. One rock bore what might have been an attempt to carve letters, though weathering made any message impossible to read. Forensic geologist Dr. Hannah Wu examined the site and stated, "This arrangement is clearly human-made. The stones aren't native to this exact location based on their composition. Someone carried them here and buried them deliberately. The purpose is unclear, but it suggests intentional marking of this location." Weather records from July 1997 showed the area experienced an unusual cold snap during the second week of the month. Between July 6th and July 9th, nighttime temperatures dropped to the low 40s with sustained rainfall. Wilderness medicine specialist Dr. Rebecca Martinez stated in a consultation report that these conditions pose severe hypothermia risk to anyone without proper shelter and equipment. Martinez's report concluded that survival beyond 72 hours in these conditions would be unlikely for individuals with limited wilderness experience. Despite extensive searching with modern technology, no human remains were located. Sheriff Palmer stated, "Montana wilderness can conceal human remains indefinitely. Wildlife activity, weather patterns, and the sheer size of the search area all contribute to recovery difficulty. The fact that we haven't found Claire and Harper doesn't mean they're not out there." In October 2018, the investigation took an unexpected turn. Margaret Chen, age 83, contacted the sheriff's office requesting to speak with investigators. Chen stated she had information about the case that her late husband, Robert Chen, had confessed to her before his death in 2009. Margaret Chen's decision to come forward was prompted not only by news coverage, but by a specific detail that had been released to the media: the hand-drawn map found in Claire's RV. When Margaret saw a photograph of the map in a news broadcast, she immediately recognized the handwriting notation 15 miles north because it matched something her husband Robert had mentioned in his deathbed confession. According to Margaret, Robert had specifically told her he'd directed the woman and her daughter to travel 15 miles north to reach the ranger station, though in reality, the nearest ranger station in that direction was more than 20 miles away. This discrepancy raised important questions. Had Robert Chen deliberately given Claire incorrect information about the distance, ensuring they would become lost in the wilderness? Or had Robert simply been mistaken about the actual distance? Margaret insisted her husband had been trying to help, that giving them wrong information hadn't been intentional. However, investigators noted that a wilderness guide like Robert should have known accurate distances to ranger stations. Margaret provided another detail in her testimony that hadn't been previously reported. Robert told her that when he warned Claire and Harper to flee, Claire had questioned whether they should instead stay with the RV and wait for help. According to Robert's account relayed through Margaret, he had convinced Claire that staying would be more dangerous, that the man outside the RV, presumably Wayne Hollis, would eventually force entry. Robert claimed he'd told Claire, "You need to leave now while he's gone. Head north. Don't stop. Don't look back." Detective Lisa Morrison conducted multiple interviews with Margaret Chen between October 15th and October 22nd, 2018. According to Chen's statement, her husband Robert had worked as a wilderness guide in the 1990s. In summer 1997, Robert became associated with a man named Wayne Hollis, described as a drifter with a criminal background. Chen stated that Robert had confessed the following: Hollis had been using Robert's wilderness knowledge to identify and rob tourists. The scheme involved Hollis approaching camping parties at official campgrounds, offering to guide them to remote locations. Robert would lead them to isolated areas. Hollis would then rob them, typically of cash and valuables, usually without violence. According to Chen's statement, Robert confessed that on July 1st, 1997, Hollis approached a woman and teenage daughter at a Glacier National Park campground. Robert claimed that he led them to the remote location where their RV was eventually found. The plan was simple theft. However, according to Robert's confession to Margaret, the woman, presumably Claire Watkins, realized something was wrong. She locked herself and her daughter inside the RV. Chen stated that Robert told her Hollis became aggressive, spending hours trying to force entry into the RV. According to the confession, Robert attempted to intervene, warning Claire and Harper through the door to flee north toward a ranger station. Robert claimed he gave Claire his compass and rough directions. Robert and Hollis then fled the area. Hollis allegedly left Montana. Robert lived with guilt about the incident until confessing on his deathbed. Detective Morrison's report noted several concerns about Chen's testimony. First, the timeline. Robert Chen died in 2009, meaning this information could have been provided 9 years earlier. When asked why she waited until 2018, Chen stated she'd been afraid and ashamed. Second, verification. Robert Chen was deceased, making his confession impossible to confirm. Third, Wayne Hollis. Chen provided a name and description, but Hollis's current whereabouts were unknown. Investigators located Wayne Hollis through criminal database searches. Hollis had an extensive record, including theft, assault, and robbery charges across multiple states. Records indicated Hollis died in 2012 while incarcerated in Nevada State Prison, serving time for armed robbery. He would never be questioned about the Watson Lang case. Further investigation into Wayne Hollis's background revealed troubling patterns. Between 1995 and 1997, at least 7 different tourist parties camping in Montana and Wyoming reported thefts from their campsites. In 3 of these incidents, tourists mentioned being approached by a friendly man who offered to guide them to better camping locations. All 3 parties declined the offer, but their campsites were burglarized within 48 hours. 2 of these tourists provided descriptions matching the drifter seen in the Glacier area in 1997. More significantly, investigators discovered that in August 1996, nearly a year before Claire and Harper vanished, a couple from Oregon reported being threatened by a man matching Hollis's description. The couple, Thomas and Jennifer Morrison, had been camping in a remote area of Flathead National Forest when a man approached their campsite late at night. The man, who claimed his truck had broken down, asked to use their cell phone. When the couple declined, the man became aggressive and threatening. The Morrisons fled in their vehicle and reported the incident to authorities, but the man was never identified. In their 1996 statement, the Morrisons described the man as driving an older blue pickup truck and mentioned that he seemed to know the forest roads extremely well. When shown a photograph of Wayne Hollis during the 2018 investigation, both Thomas and Jennifer Morrison confirmed he was the man who had threatened them. This confirmation established Hollis's pattern of targeting tourists in remote Montana locations and suggested his behavior had escalated from theft to more aggressive confrontations. Investigators also discovered that Robert Chen had filed a police report in September 1997, 2 months after Claire and Harper vanished. In the report, Chen stated that his wilderness guide business had been impacted by negative associations with a former client who had engaged in inappropriate behavior. Chen didn't name Wayne Hollis in the report, but he mentioned that this individual had been asking clients about their valuables and camping plans. The timing of this report, coming after the Watson Lang disappearance, but before the case received national attention, suggested Robert Chen might have been attempting to distance himself from Hollis without fully disclosing his knowledge of what happened. Sheriff Palmer stated in November 2018, Margaret Chen's testimony provides a possible scenario for what happened. However, we cannot verify these claims. Robert Chen is deceased. Wayne Hollis is deceased. We have no physical evidence linking either man to the crime scene. This remains an active investigation with multiple theories. The case generated significant debate among investigators and true crime analysts. Some argued Margaret Chen's testimony explained the evidence. Claire and Harper hiding from someone, the abandoned RV, the attempt to walk to safety. Others questioned the timing and verifiability of her claims. Online forums discussed whether this was truth or an elderly woman's attempt to resolve her late husband's guilt. Several aspects of the case remain unexplained. The incomplete message "Mom is" appearing in both Harper's journal fragment and the tree carving. What was Harper trying to communicate? Multiple theories exist, but none can be confirmed. The broken compass found along the route. Was it already broken when Robert Chen allegedly gave it to Claire? Was it damaged during their trek through the wilderness? Did someone break it intentionally? Why was Harper's journal burned? The fragments were found in a fire pit at the shelter Claire and Harper apparently constructed. Did they burn the journal for warmth, to destroy evidence, or did someone else find the shelter and burn it? Harper's camera with 4 unexposed frames. What had Harper seen that she chose not to photograph? Or had she been conserving film for something specific she never got the chance to capture? The arrow carved into the tree near the RV pointing north. Who carved it? Was it Harper or Claire marking their intended direction? Was it someone else, perhaps trying to mislead searchers? Most significantly, Where are Claire and Harper's remains? Despite extensive searches in 1997 and 2018, no human remains have been recovered. The vast Montana wilderness offers countless possibilities, but no definitive answers. Nathan Reed was informed of all developments in the 2018 investigation. He traveled to Montana in December 2018, visiting the tree where Harper had carved her message. In an interview with KPAX Montana News, Nathan stated, "I know my daughter fought to survive. She didn't give up. That gives me some peace. But I still don't have answers. I still don't know where they are." Nathan Reed died on February 3, 2019, at age 71. His death certificate listed heart disease as the cause. His will requested his ashes be scattered in the Montana wilderness near where Claire and Harper's RV was discovered. The request was honored in March 2019. The case officially remains unsolved. The Flathead County Sheriff's Office lists Claire Watkins and Harper Lang as missing persons. Their case files remain open. Sheriff Palmer stated in a 2020 statement, "We continue to accept and investigate any credible leads. The families of missing persons deserve answers. We won't stop looking." Several theories persist about what happened to Claire and Harper. Theory 1, criminal encounter leading to death by exposure. This theory, supported partially by Margaret Chen's testimony, suggests Claire and Harper encountered criminals at their campsite. Threatened and afraid, they fled into the wilderness without proper equipment. They attempted to reach a ranger station, but became lost when their compass broke. They succumbed to hypothermia during the cold snap in early July. Their remains were scattered by wildlife and concealed by forest undergrowth. This theory explains most evidence, but relies on unverifiable testimony from a deceased confessor. Theory 2, encounter with dangerous individual, foul play involved. This theory suggests the person or persons who approached Claire and Harper's RV did more than threaten them. Some investigators believe Claire and Harper may have been pursued into the wilderness. The incomplete message, "Mom is," could indicate Harper witnessed something happening to her mother. This theory is supported by the sudden end of Harper's message, as if she'd been interrupted. However, no physical evidence of violence has been found. Theory 3, wilderness accident. This theory proposes Claire and Harper left their RV for reasons unrelated to criminal activity, perhaps to hike or explore. They became lost, particularly if their compass was malfunctioning. Harper's journal entry about someone at the RV could be misinterpreted fear or paranoia. The cold weather and difficult terrain led to their deaths. This theory doesn't explain why they would abandon their RV with all its supplies, or why the door was locked from inside. Theory 4, unknown circumstances. Some investigators maintain that the evidence doesn't fit any neat explanation. The locked RV door, the 8-mile trek, the incomplete messages, Margaret Chen's convenient but unverifiable testimony, all suggest complexities not yet understood. This theory acknowledges that some cases defy explanation with available evidence. Dr. Patricia Morrison, forensic psychologist who consulted on the case, stated in a 2019 interview, "The incomplete message is psychologically significant. Harper wrote or carved, 'Mom is,' at least twice that we know of. She was trying to communicate something specific about her mother's condition or situation. The fact that both instances are incomplete suggests either interruption or psychological inability to finish. What was she trying to say? We may never know." The case has been featured in multiple true crime documentaries and podcasts. Each new examination brings renewed attention and sometimes new theories. Online communities dedicated to unsolved mysteries continue active discussions about the Watson-Lang case. Some amateur investigators have traveled to Montana to conduct their own searches, though none have found additional evidence. One amateur investigator, former search and rescue volunteer Daniel Reeves, spent 3 summers between 2019 and 2021 conducting his own searches of the area. Reeves, who had followed the case since 1997, used Claire's hand-drawn map and Harper's survival notebook as guides to develop his own theories about their route. In summer 2020, Reeves discovered what he believed was another message carved into a tree, approximately halfway between Harper's confirmed tree carving and the RV site. The carving Reeves found consisted of 3 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines, forming what could be interpreted as a crude compass, rose, or directional marker. The carving was weathered and partially grown over with bark, suggesting significant age. Reeves documented the finding with photographs and GPS coordinates, then reported it to the Flathead County Sheriff's Office. Forensic analysis couldn't definitively determine when the marks were made or who made them, but the location along the theoretical route between the RV and Harper's tree suggested potential relevance. Sheriff Palmer stated regarding Reeves's discovery, "We appreciate the public's continued interest in helping solve this case. The marks Mr. Reeves found are documented in our case file. Whether they're connected to Claire and Harper, we can't say with certainty, but every piece of potential evidence is valuable." The discovery prompted renewed searching of the area between Reeves's finding and Harper's known carving. During this 2020 search operation, teams using metal detectors found several items of interest. Approximately 7.2 miles from the RV, searchers located a small pocket knife partially buried in soil and forest debris. The knife was heavily corroded, but forensic analysis determined it was consistent with a multi-tool type knife that had been manufactured in the 1990s. Nathan Reed, when shown photographs before his death, couldn't confirm whether the knife had belonged to Claire or Harper, but he noted that Claire typically carried a small multi-tool on camping trips. The knife's blade showed signs of heavy use, with scoring marks that forensic experts suggested were consistent with carving wood or bark. This discovery led investigators to theorize that this might have been the tool Harper used to carve her messages. If so, the question became, why was it found at this location, more than half a mile from Harper's tree carving? Had Harper dropped it, discarded it, or had someone else taken it from her? Also, during the 2020 search, investigators discovered a small cache hidden under rocks approximately 7.5 miles from the RV. The cache contained items wrapped in deteriorated plastic, 2 energy bars in sealed packaging, a small first aid kit, and a waterproof container holding a lighter and matches. The energy bars were the same brand found in Claire's RV supplies. The first aid kit matched the type that had been partially emptied in the RV. The existence of this cache suggested that either Claire or Harper had deliberately hidden supplies, possibly intending to return for them later. Wilderness survival expert Anderson stated, "Creating supply caches is a smart survival strategy. If they were planning a long trek, they might have hidden supplies along their route to reduce the weight they had to carry constantly. The fact that this cache was never retrieved suggests they either never made it back to this location or were unable to find it again." The tree where Harper carved her message remains in the Montana wilderness. The Forest Service has placed markers in the area, though the exact location is not publicized to prevent vandalism. Rangers report that people occasionally visit the general area, paying respects to Harper and Claire. Some leave flowers or notes. One note, found by rangers in 2020, read, "Harper, we haven't forgotten. We're still looking." Emma Rodriguez, who discovered the tree carving, completed her degree in wildlife biology. She stated in a 2021 interview, "Finding that message changed my life. I think about Harper all the time. A 16-year-old girl trying so hard to leave a message for rescuers, fighting to survive. It makes me wonder what other evidence is out there waiting to be found." For investigators, the Watson-Lang case represents both frustration and determination. Detective Morrison, who worked on the 2018 reopened investigation, stated, "We may never recover remains. We may never know exactly what happened in those mountains." The case has influenced how Montana authorities approach wilderness disappearances. Sheriff Palmer implemented new protocols requiring earlier deployment of resources when vehicles are found abandoned in remote areas. "The Watson-Lang case taught us that every hour matters," Palmer stated. "We now treat these situations as potential criminal cases from the beginning, not just missing persons who might return on their own." For the true crime community, this case offers endless discussion material. Online forums remain active with new theories posted regularly. Some believe Margaret Chen's story explains everything. Others think there's a darker truth not yet uncovered. Some theorize Claire and Harper are still alive somewhere, having chosen to disappear. This last theory is considered unlikely by investigators, but demonstrates how unsolved cases generate speculation. The incomplete nature of Harper's message has inspired various interpretations. Linguistic analysts have examined the phrase "mom is" for clues about what might follow. Common theories include Mom is hurt, Mom is dying, Mom is hiding, Mom is gone, or even Mom is safe. Each interpretation suggests a different scenario for what was happening when Harper carved that message. None can be confirmed. The 4 unexposed frames on Harper's camera represent another tantalizing mystery. What had Harper seen that she chose not to photograph? Or had she been saving film for something specific? The camera was found 6 miles from the RV, suggesting Harper still had it relatively late in their journey. Why wasn't she documenting their survival attempt? One theory suggests the camera's presence was coincidental, perhaps dropped while crossing the stream where it was found. Another theory proposes Harper was too focused on survival to think about photography. The burned journal pages found at the shelter raise questions about intent. Did Claire and Harper burn the journal for warmth, using whatever combustible material they had? This seems likely given the cold weather. Or did someone else find the shelter after they'd left or died, burning the journal to destroy evidence? If so, who? And why would they burn it but not take or destroy other items? Nathan Reed's 21-year search exemplifies the torment families of missing persons endure. Unlike families of confirmed murder victims, Nathan never had closure. He didn't know if Claire and Harper had died quickly or suffered. He didn't know where they were. He couldn't visit a grave or hold a memorial service with finality. The uncertainty consumed his final years. His death, coming just weeks after learning of Margaret Chen's testimony, suggests he'd been waiting for answers before allowing himself to rest. The case raises broader questions about wilderness safety and the trust tourists place in strangers. If Margaret Chen's testimony is accurate, Claire and Harper encountered someone who appeared helpful but had criminal intent. How many other tourists have had similar encounters that didn't end in disappearance but were never reported? The case prompted discussions about stranger danger even in natural settings that seem far from urban crime. Emma Rodriguez's discovery demonstrates the role of chance in solving cold cases. Had she set up her camera equipment 50 feet in a different direction, she might never have noticed the carving. Had she been studying different wildlife, she wouldn't have been in that location. The 21-year gap between Harper's carving and its discovery shows how evidence can exist for decades, waiting for someone to literally stumble across it. This raises the question, what other evidence remains undiscovered in that wilderness? The investigative techniques used in this case reflect the evolution of forensic science. In 1997, investigators had Harper's journal entries in basic forensic analysis. In 2018, they had advanced DNA testing capabilities, digital enhancement of degraded documents, and sophisticated mapping technology. Yet the fundamental questions remained unanswered. This demonstrates that while technology helps, it cannot solve cases where crucial evidence or witnesses no longer exist. The case remains officially active. The Flathead County Sheriff's Office maintains the file and accepts tips. In 2022, Sheriff Palmer stated, "We review this case annually. If new evidence emerges, we're ready to investigate. The families of missing persons, even deceased family members like Nathan Reed, deserve every effort we can provide." Some investigators believe the answer to what happened lies somewhere in that 8-mile corridor between the RV and Harper's tree. They theorize that Claire and Harper's remains are within that area, concealed by terrain or wildlife activity. Periodic searches continue, though scaled back from the intensive 2018 effort. Each search finds nothing. Each negative result reinforces the wilderness's ability to hide evidence indefinitely. The psychological impact on investigators who work this case is significant. Detective Mitchell, who led the initial 1997 investigation, stated in a 2019 interview shortly before her retirement, "This case stayed with me for 22 years. I thought about Harper and Claire constantly. When the tree carving was found, I felt vindicated that we'd been right to suspect something criminal had occurred. But I also felt devastated that we hadn't found it sooner, that Harper's message waited 21 years for someone to see it." For visitors to Montana, the case serves as a reminder that wilderness beauty coexists with danger. Every year, people go missing in America's national parks and forests. Most are found, some aren't. The Watson Lang case isn't unique in its basic facts, a wilderness disappearance with limited evidence. What makes it memorable is Harper's carved message, that incomplete sentence that haunts everyone who reads it. The case has been featured in multiple true crime documentaries, podcasts, and articles. Each new examination brings renewed attention. In 2021, a major streaming documentary series dedicated an episode to the case, generating millions of views and thousands of new tips to authorities. None led to breakthroughs. This demonstrates both the public fascination with unsolved mysteries and the reality that publicity doesn't always yield results. Academic interest in the case continues. It's studied in forensic psychology courses as an example of trauma-interrupted communication. It's examined in wilderness survival courses as a case study in poor decision-making under stress. It's analyzed in criminal justice programs as an example of how cases can remain unsolved despite significant evidence and effort. The tree where Harper carved her message has become an unofficial memorial, though its exact location remains unpublicized. Forest Service rangers report finding occasional flowers or notes left in the general area. One ranger stated, "People want to pay respects, to acknowledge that Harper and Claire existed, that they mattered. Even if we can't bring them home, we can remember them." 27 years have passed since Claire and Harper vanished. The case remains exactly as the final line states, unsolved. All the evidence, all the theories, all the investigation, and still no definitive answers. Just an incomplete message carved into a tree, a testament to a 16-year-old girl's courage and desperation. Harper was here, July 1997. Mom is, and then silence. The wilderness keeps its secrets. Perhaps forever, this case remains unsolved.